For man had succeeded in destroying the world. But war never changes.
Wrong! War does change. It has changed. Fallout 76 was revealed a couple of weeks ago, and then, just a few days ago at E3, Bethesda's Todd Howard revealed that Fallout 76 would be entirely online. And this has caused gigantic, Roland Emmerich-sized tidal waves of upset across the entire online gaming community. Now, an awful lot of people have made a similar video to this one, but for what it's worth, here is my 2 pennies. Stay where you are, and I'll give the case for and against right after this. I've been a Fallout fanboy since Bethesda took over with Fallout 3, and I have to say I'm a little bit surprised that more people weren't prepared for this announcement. But it's out there now, so I'm just going to tell you the for and against and my various opinions on this for what it's worth. Take it or leave it, do with it what you will. Here it comes. We'll start with the against, actually, because I like the whole bad news then good news thing. So the possibilities for griefing in PvP are innumerable. I've said this before in videos. I really don't get that kind of behaviour in video games. It's not why I play video games. I play video games for a nice single-player story. I do like to get involved with my buddies from time to time, but I prefer to play co-op missions. I don't really like player versus player because there are just too many 13 and 14-year-old kids out there with daddy issues who want to scream at you and blow people up who are just trying to enjoy their online experience. So this is a real problem. Particularly when you add in nuclear f***ing missiles. I mean, what? I really don't think that that's a great idea, and I don't think I'm alone in this. The kind of people that play online games, that play first-person shooters and only play PvP, and even people like, World of Warcraft players and stuff like that, they seem completely baffled. Todd Howard said you can play solo. What's the problem? Okay, solo is not the same thing as single player. We can all play an online game on our own. That's not the same as a single player experience. The NPCs versus real people argument is the one I would use here. A lot of the people defending these sorts of online games and this kind of griefing will say, well, but the thing is, all the human beings in this game are going to be real people, and NPCs don't behave like real people. Real people make it a more realistic experience. No, they don't. And the obvious reason why is that an NPC doesn't know it's in a video game. So it behaves the way people generally would behave if their lives depended on this, and there were things at stake, if there were consequences. Real people coming in online to a video game know that there are no long-term consequences. They don't behave anything like real people would in these situations. It's an absolute load of nonsense. Moving on. One of the things a lot of Fallout players, including me, love the most about the Fallout series is the VATS targeting system, which obviously will not work. Now, Todd Howard, in a recent interview at E3, said the VATS system is there. It obviously won't slow down time, but it is there and it's had to be tweaked. So I'm actually kind of interested to see what they've done with that, but that's one thing that people love about the Fallout games that we're obviously not going to get. Building probably isn't going to work. Now, this is not as much of a problem for me as it is for a lot of other people, because when Fallout 4 came out, I was so psyched that you could now build your own bases and things. And what I found after months of playing was that, and it is just my playstyle, is because I'm indecisive and I keep changing things, so this doesn't necessarily apply to you, but what I found is that I just got bogged down in the building. And eventually, I just ignored the story, I ignored the quests, and that is what I came to Fallout games for in the first place. So I'm not that disappointed that the building thing isn't there. It is a thing that was added that's great, but when they added the homestead thing to Skyrim as well, that also detracted a little from the story for me, so I won't lose too much sleep if that's gone. So it was obviously not going to be Fallout 5, and I don't know why people were expecting it, but I understand the grief that they're feeling about the fact that this is not Fallout 5. Because looking at the games that are incoming now for Bethesda, it's beginning to look like Fallout 5 then is at least 5 years away, if not more. And that's a major problem. I completely understand why people are upset about that. But this would go on all day, so we're going to move now to the for argument. Now, in spite of all that shouting that I've just done there, I'm actually not quite as upset about the Fallout 76 online-only announcements as everybody else. And before you go thinking, oh, you're an online player, are you? No, I am not. I tinker with little tiny bits of games here and there. I used to play Call of Duty years ago when it was all single player, right? But as soon as it went online, that was it. I mean, I fell out with Call of Duty quite quickly because I was new to online games then, and I discovered quite quickly that it's full of little kids telling you what they're going to do to your mothers, and that's not really what I want from a video game. I play video games to escape that sort of real-life crap outside my door. And I know that a lot of you feel the same way. The reason it doesn't really upset me is, as I said a moment ago, nobody really should have been expecting a new Fallout game at this point. It's the Elder Scrolls' turn next. And we knew it was a spin-off when the title was released. It's not Fallout 5. Generally, the Elder Scrolls, they get their titles with numbers and subtitles. Fallout games, the same thing, we get numbers, right? So we knew this was a spin-off game when the title was released. Would it have been nice if it had been developed by Obsidian, like Fallout New Vegas, one of the greatest titles in the series? Yes, of course it would. Would it have been great to have a single player? Of course it would. But it's not the end of the world. Bethesda games have one of the most loyal and dedicated fan bases of any games franchise that exists. So there's just no way that Bethesda are going to discard their fans to pick up FPS and PvP players. But it would be stupid for any business not to explore its options and try to grab a share of that online market as well. They're probably as afraid of being left behind as single-player gamers like you and I are of being left behind in the fear that all games are eventually going to go online. They have that fear for their business just the same way that we have that fear for the games that they produce. So they'd be really stupid to ignore that untapped market for their games. But if anything, you should be quite pleased, really, that the games that you love so dearly come from a company that's interested in expanding and bringing in new players. Yes, we can all be xenophobic and insular and be scared of people coming in from the outside who do things very, very differently than the way we do. But I think there are plenty of historical events, most of them quite recently, that prove why that's always a bad idea. But I know there are a lot of people out there that are saying, oh my god, this is the end, this spells doom, this means that they're moving into the online arena more permanently and they're going to leave the single player behind. To be honest, I don't want to tell you that I'm not afraid of that happening with the games that I love, because I am. It's been one of my fears for many, many years. But look at it this way. If Bethesda had planned to move away from single-player RPGs entirely, why on earth would they have spent the last 5 years developing a completely new one? I'm talking, of course, of Starfield, which Todd Howard has said very clearly is a single-player RPG adventure game. It's one that I happen to be very, very excited about. But you don't go into building an entirely new world, entirely new lore, all for an entirely new single-player RPG adventure game if your long-term plans is to move away from those kind of games altogether. I think that The Elder Scrolls 6 will tell us the tale. 2020 is the absolute earliest that that's going to appear, and I frankly, and I don't think you'll disagree, I don't think there's any chance that The Elder Scrolls 6 is going to appear before 2021. And I've heard plenty of people saying, I think The Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be online. But I just think that's doom-saying, reactionary nonsense that people tend to do when they're upset about a development like this. It's possible that it'll be online, but I very much doubt it. The Elder Scrolls Online is already there, and as you saw if you were paying attention to E3 and all the other developments that Bethesda announced, The Elder Scrolls Online is expanding all the time. They're adding new stuff. There are plenty of people out there that say it's empty, nobody plays it, it's dead. I don't, but there are apparently millions of people that play it, and they wouldn't continually be making new stuff over and over again if it was dying and being driven into the ground. You don't like it, perhaps? I don't particularly like it, but there are people out there who do. There is a market for it. Bethesda knew that, and that's why they keep making new content for it. And Todd Howard has talked about Fallout 76 being a game that they plan to develop and expand upon for years to come. Honestly, I think the online element is just another string they're adding to their bow. I don't think for a second that it's going to detract from the single-player experience that they know their loyal, dedicated fanbase loves more than anything else. Life is full of disappointments. If you tie all of your love of video gaming to one particular video game franchise, you're going to be disappointed. Honestly, it does seem a little bit strange to me that Bethesda don't communicate more with their core fans about their concerns, because it's very obvious what those concerns are. During the few days since Fallout 76 was announced as being an online exclusive experience, you can't go anywhere on the internet without tripping over a dozen people going on about Fallout 76 and their concerns for it, and Todd Howard says that he's on Reddit all the time. There's no way that they don't know what their fans are concerned about, so it does seem a little odd to me that they don't come out and address those concerns more often. In that respect, I understand the core fans saying that they feel a little bit sidelined and a little bit ignored. I get that, I really do. I may end up playing Fallout 76, or I may not. There are an awful lot of decent games coming around the time that Fallout 76 is released, so whether or not I can squeeze it in, or even afford it along with all the other video games, I honestly don't know. I would have, if it had been Fallout 5. I might, if the beta turns out to be any good, but of course you've got to pre-order the game to get online with the beta. We'll see. I might play it, I might not. You might play it, you might not. But whatever it is, let's not write Bethesda off. Let's look forward to the future games. Let's look forward to Starfield. Let's look forward to the Elder Scrolls 6. Further and further down the line, let's look forward to Fallout 5. And in the meantime, let's just give Fallout 76 a chance, shall we? Thank you very much for listening to my inane ranting. You can follow me on Twitter or Facebook in the links that I put in the description. A like is always nice, subscription is even better, comments are always helpful. But until next time, from Knight's Arcade, this is Sleepless Knight saying nighty-night.
In Vault 76, our future begins.